JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. Friday, November 15th, about 8:32. Talk really quick about the markets. It's going to be a quick rant. Sorry if I talk too fast. Hopefully I don't lose my breath. But talk about the markets, some names I'm looking at, go from there. Take a look at the S&P. Futures are in the red this morning, somewhat of a continuation from yesterday afternoon. Markets were kind of, I wouldn't call it flat. They were in the red yesterday, but then at 3 o'clock when Fed Chair Powell came on, his tone was, I guess, a little bit hawkish, kind of pull back a little bit of the possibility that maybe the rate cuts will happen every single meeting going forward, at least a 0.25%. So with that, you saw the markets sell off just a little bit, and then you also had the probability of rate cuts get cut back when you go to the CME FedWatch tool. I think there's a 30% probability that at January's meeting, so there's a meeting in December and a meeting in January, there's a 30% probability the market's pricing in that there won't be any rate cuts at December and January, which is up from like 17%. So you can kind of see the pendulum turn a little bit. And I think maybe that's some of the data. On one hand, you don't want the tool the Fed has is to cut the rate. So you don't want them to cut it too fast or that tool gets removed. So maybe that's a good sign. But either way, the market's been on a monster rally post-election. I mean, it was already up 35% on a year-over-year basis on Monday. So to see some profit taking pullback, it had to happen at some point. I wanted to see that 595 handle hold. It didn't hold into the afternoon, and then it just accelerated, and we were actually under 590 in the pre-market, and we're bouncing a little bit here, but hopefully work its way back at least into flat land on the SPY today. I think it'll be a good sign. And I always talk about silver linings, and the silver lining was the VIX. And even though the market was in the red yesterday, and it sometimes seemed like it was coming under pressure, the VIX was actually in the red and under 14. And I remember the VIX would be up like 7% with markets at all-time highs and in the green. And here it is, the market's selling off. And we're at all-time highs, and the VIX is back under 14. So it was almost, and I used this analogy on the rant yesterday in FinTwit, it's like a tire with a slow leak, and that's what the VIX feels like recently. It doesn't matter what the market's doing. It seems like all the events or catalysts that could have caused some volatility have kind of been removed, and in turn the VIX has fallen. So we'll love to see the VIX hang around 13, 14. I think that'll bode well, and go from there. So that's that. Small caps too, unfortunately, down another over 1% yesterday. I think they're only down 2.8% this week. Some of the move yesterday afternoon too was the biotech sector just getting pummeled. You had Trump, excuse me, was announced his Health and Human Service Secretary, which can be RFK Jr. There'll be both sides of the fence. I mean, I'm not here to get political or what have you, but he's more of a stance of, people say he's anti-vaccine, but he's just like, at least give people a choice. But then there's other things he might do, and regulation in the FDA. You see some people talking about too much cost, too much red tape, too much in regards to that. I'm always about, my thoughts on biotech. I love biotech because I think if you can improve people's lives, that's great, right? So I'm always about there's rare disorders where there's drugs that are early stage that folks can't take because they haven't been approved. But these rare disorders may have someone who lose their life when they're 20 years old, right? Or they have a very short lifespan. So it's like if they want to take the drug, let them take the drug. That's my thoughts on it, right? But anyway, we'll have to see how that plays out. Certainly wasn't skewed bullish for the biotech sector. I don't know if it was the surprise element, but I was trying to look for some. I'm like, is insurers going to take a hit? Is that the next shoe to drop? Because if you take a look at that whole ecosystem in regards to insurance and big pharma and all that, it's like it's a profit making machine, and at some point, if someone tries to go in and start tinkering with it, what does that mean? So definitely something I'm gonna have to look at over the weekend and see if there's ways to play that. But anyways, that was some of the pullback yesterday, and we'll have to see how biotech performs today. Unfortunately, I mean, biotech's one of my favorite sectors, so at some point you want to see those go up. And the other thing with the biotech sector is as those stocks go up, especially the ones that don't have drugs on the market, that allows them to raise capital, right? So, and then that capital is used to bring health for patients and life-saving drugs and things to improve people's lives. So, all right, rants for other days. All right, so now individual names. Take a look at gold. Gold was actually trying to break into the green yesterday, and then at 3 o'clock, it sold off with the rest of the market. Down, I think it's down 5 sessions in a row. I put that trend line. I kind of cleared things up with my old annotation, so I still have that other old annotation chart, but this is, You see that trend line. I look at that 2400 spot there, the 200-day moving average on gold, and I think it's going to come before the year's out. If that's the case, GLD puts are going to be substantial profit makers as well as some of the miners. So I'll continue to look for opportunities to play those. I lock more of my December strikes in, puts for over 100%. So I'm holding just a few more of those, and I still have the Januaries, and I might look for some other strikes to play for downside. So that's gold. Similar yesterday afternoon, the EV subsidy, the $7,500 subsidy that was given out with EV vehicles, looks like that's going away. I don't think that's any surprise. I think the surprise a little bit was that the solar was not named in that, right? Green initiatives, things like that. So you saw some of the solar names starting to get a bid and then really starting to spike. You take a look like a name at First Solar. I was doing this on a rant yesterday afternoon, but its reversal after its earnings, I thought was kind of a telltale sign. It's really was going to take off. And then you had the election. And then with the election, folks were thinking that there was going to be subsidies removed that were going to, to help the growth. And it turns doesn't look like that's going to be the case. So then you look at a name like First Solar, and I think that's positioned to really reverse course. 50-day moving average 207. Excuse me, the 200-day moving average 205. I think once that breaks, it was 207 yesterday. That's why I say 207. Once that breaks, I think it's off to the races. So really like First Solar to next week. WYNN, I already talked about on the rant. I posted in FinTwit yesterday, but it was spiking at the open yesterday, and then couldn't find a catalyst. Went to the SEC. You see an amendment for the owner of the Rockets. I forget what his name is. John, is it? The name doesn't matter. Oh gosh, Tillman, right? So, and then also after the close yesterday, you have the updates from funds. So every 3 months, they're required to give an update on their holdings. Yesterday was Domino's Pizza by Warren Buffett. He also bought a stake in Pool. Pool was one of my favorite names from a while back. So interesting there. But WYNN also had David Tepper, who owns the Panthers. He added casinos. So WYNN. So maybe that's another bid to the stocks to win today. But anyway, I talked about, I looked at his filing. He amended it up to 9.9%. I think once you go over the 10% threshold, you have to go in front of gaming committee and get a license or get a waiver. So I think that's why he went up to 9.9%. And then you start looking around. Some people are saying there's no comment. Then other people saying he's not satisfied with the way WYNN's business has been going. He thinks there's more opportunity domestically. So I don't know. I don't know if he's going to do an activist stake or he's going to actually try to outright buy the company. Certainly interesting. To me, the speculation means more than anything else. So until he comes out with the affirmative comments, I think this trade's higher anyway. 50-day, 200-day moving average were broken yesterday, and then you start looking at the gap fill from earnings. So I think it trades up near 95. Once that breaks, I think it's off to the races too. Locks on my hundreds in for over 100% to cover costs. I'll hold the rest into the weekend, pending any crazy sell-off today, which I don't think is going to happen. That's that. NetEase. So, I talked about yesterday afternoon. I added it. I saw the earnings yesterday morning, and then stock was gapping. Some of these times, some of these names, especially you look at BABA right now, is reversing its morning gap. But some of these China ADRs seem to gap and then reverse those gains as the day goes on. That didn't happen with NetEase. So the longer it held its gains, the longer I became interested. And then once it started to break the highs, I went and got some strikes into next week. So I have the 90 calls. It's gapping up a little bit here in the pre-market. Some of it, I guess, China stocks didn't take it on the chin yesterday. It's a good thing. BABA earnings. You also have, I don't see much in the way of analysts. Benchmark kept their price target, lowers their price target to 105, maintain a buy rating on NetEase. I think it trades up near 90. You look at the chart, the 50-day moving average is, what do we got here? 50-day moving average is 83.59, so it's above that right now. And then you look the 200 days all the way at 92.50. Even if it reverses a lot of the losses it's had since the start of October, if it recoups 50% of them, it's going to be $92, right? So really like this one for upside. I'll look to lock some of my calls in today if I can get them out for 100% to cover costs. A couple other names here. Lemonade, another day, another analyst comes out and raises their price target, but reiterates their bearish stance. This morning, it's Morgan Stanley. They raised their price target to 23. I think 23 from 15, something like that, but then maintained their underweight rating. And then I think some of the notes says Lemonade has been on a 100% rally. So so it's like you were wrong to the tune of 100% because you have an underweight rating. So it should be down 150%, not up 100%. And not only that, you're keeping your underweight rating, but you're raising the price target. So I get it. They have a bearish stance on the name. Uh, so we'll have to see how it reacts today. I just want to see it hold 31. If it holds 31, I'll continue to hold the Decembers. Already locked a lot of profits on Decembers, locked those Novembers in for monster profits. So I'm going to be patient. But at the same token, if 31 breaks, maybe it starts to reset. So, and some of the most, in my opinion, the majority of the reason it moved so high is the short squeeze. So, not saying the short squeeze is over by any means, but if it does start to show pressure, I'll look to exit that. I have to get on my travel zoo calls today. I'll be adding December and Marches today. That's almost a certainty. Micron all the way down to that bottom support under $100. I'll be watching that one today. Try not to catch a falling knife here, but if it does find support, could be another bounce up to that 115 handle. And then once that 115 breaks, off to the races. And then last but not, well, with Micron too, NVIDIA reports earnings next week. So that could be somewhat of a catalyst, especially for the entire sector, semi-sector as a whole. And then last but not least here is SE. Not much to do on this one. Back-to-back red sessions after its monster earnings. I'm hoping there's no gap fill around 97 or so. Could happen, but I'm still bullish in AIM. I think it heads higher into 2025. And that's it, folks. Let's have a great day. I'll be back on audio later. Rock and roll.